Folks, welcome back to the fourth episode of the Keep Going podcast with Vin Kennedy. Honestly, this podcast is, I kind of touched on it a little bit last episode where I was speaking about my why and really what drives people. And this one, I'm kind of going to just do a deep dive into my personal why and what keeps me going, why I do a lot of the things that I do, and what fuels me to do certain things that I do. Personally, my why is just to impact the people around me and anyone I can in a positive way. I think there's a lot of negativity in this world, and it's easy to get sucked into that. And one of the things I think about whenever I think of this topic, I kind of go back to myself in, either a depressed state or when I was out of shape and just anxious and had a lot of things going on. And I try to be the role model that I would have needed at that time. So I try to be that leader that, it could have been people at the time. It was probably athletes that I looked up to. And I try and encompass that in myself today. And I kind of try my best. Of course, every single day, sometimes we come up short, but it's about putting that effort forth. And I try my best to kind of be someone that shines a light on other people instead of adding more negativity to this crazy world we live in. It's funny because it seems minuscule and it even could seem a little, corny or out there. And, another weird thing I always say to myself is it's like believing in Santa for Christmas. Personally, Christmas is way better when I believe in Santa. So I like having something to believe in. And I've seen it come to fruition in certain situations with certain people I've impacted in a positive way, or certain people have impacted me in a positive way. And I know what that could do to people. It could be a little bit of a mental switch and just help you get to that next level or gain a little confidence. And that's all it is. And it's funny too, because we limit it to the people around us or just smaller things when you really have no idea who you're impacting. You can literally impact the person next to you who can create something you love, something someone in your family loves, something that can help someone in your family or friends or just someone you grew up around. And it's funny because we belittle stuff like this and we live in a society of just knocking each other down when really, again, it sounds corny, but if you're just there to pick somebody else up, we could just all evolve and create cooler for lack of a better term, or just a better environment to be in. Like I said, I rather believe in Santa Claus. I think to have something to believe in and make it that it's bigger than you, it's bigger than just you, being the best version of yourself for other people takes the ego out of it. And that's another issue that I feel like we run into these days, where everybody's all about the greatest attributes to them or what's going on in their life and flashy and quick gratification, when really a lot of the long growth stuff takes time and delayed gratification, and it's just these little wins that compound and they build up and they create the greatest people that we have in this world. And you know these people, they're, you could sense it when you're in a room with them. And that kind of brings me to a point a coworker of mine actually said. He's like, you kind of make everybody around you better. He was referring to, I mean, God knows what came out of my mouth, but just like, I don't know, it was a stressful day and it just gave us a reason to laugh. I forget what I said, but it's little things like that. And I'm not saying I'm, some godly light by any stretch of the imagination, but even if you could turn these situations into laughing moments, back to what I was getting to, but these people, you see them around you, you feel like they move different. You could just see it. They portray a different outlook on life, and it kind of is contagious. And that's something that I strive to do day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, because I've seen firsthand. I think I told the story about my sister running a marathon. Again, she ran the marathon and she did all of the work, but just to give that little extra push that sometimes people need. For me, there's been countless situations and I kind of hold on to them. And one that just popped into my head right now is a buddy of mine was deep into bodybuilding, got his pro card. Really proud of him because he's a stud. I kind of was around him all of quarantine, and I would have never thought of doing a bodybuilding show. But he's like, oh, you could definitely do one. And just seeing him and the way he lived his life, and it was a great role model to be around, and just being in that environment. And again, I that's kind of one of the only people that I was really hanging out with on the daily. And it was just because, he had a gym in his basement. We were working out. Not to say we're not friends. We're definitely friends. But, that's kind of where it stemmed from. And then from there, I just kind of adapted some of the things that he was doing because, we're easily influenced by our environment. And it rubbed off on me. And, turn around a couple years later and I did a bodybuilding show. But if COVID never happened, if being in that environment and kind of rubbing shoulders with him never happened, rubbing shoulders, I don't know, rubbing elbows, whatever. But if being around him like that in that degree never took place, I would have never had the confidence and the wherewithal to have the self-belief to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to do a bodybuilding show. And I believe in myself, and I think I could get this done. With that being said, obviously he positively influenced me, and becoming the best version of yourself, you will positively influence others. But it's so easy to just become a product of your environment, especially it's more likely that you might be in a negative environment. And to me, I rather live my life and be a leader that I could look up to, just be an avenue of light in certain situations where there might not be light, or light might be needed, and some positivity might be needed. Again, I know even a past version of myself would say this stuff is corny, and it could sound that way. Definitely understand that, but it's just how I choose to live now, and it's changed everything for me. I think it goes hand in hand with gratitude and just being grateful for where I'm at now. It's really exponentially changed my life for the absolute better. And for me, I really am. I'm doing my best to be the best person I can be, to positively have an impact on everyone around me. One of the things I really dive deep into about this is just changing that self-narrative, and that sometimes you can't do it internally. It's easy to put that self-doubt on yourself before you even take the test or attempt the challenge. But if you have someone else that believes in you a little more, or just gives you a little bit of words of encouragement at a time when you need them, sometimes that could just be the propeller that you need to push through and get done whatever that daunting task or something that you might think you can't get through. An example of this is a buddy of mine just passed a pretty big test for himself. And I remember when he was first talking about taking this test, he was saying, I'm not a good test taker. And I was like, in the past, neither was I. Nobody, certain people just aren't good test takers. But when you put that narrative on yourself, you're setting yourself up for failure, where sometimes it could be as simple as a switch of that, where it's, I'm going to do my best and I studied and applied myself. I feel confident going into this. Sometimes you just let that doubt creep in, and it kind of could ruin everything before it even starts. Kid crushed the test, proud of him. And, he's doing great things. And it's cool to see that, I was there from the start. And when he said that, this is something I said to him. I was like, you got to change that self-talk. You have to change that narrative, because first of all, that's a box that either you put yourself in, or a teacher put yourself in, or your parents put yourself in. And this is really for a later episode that I've kind of pre-planned as well. But it's just how you talk to yourself really, really matters. And it's something that's so simple and overlooked. And again, corny. But, there's certain things. I ran a full marathon with very little and honestly just stupid training, and did not fuel properly. And one thing I said to myself is, I don't stop. I said that probably after 5 miles, I was like, I'm gassed. This is not good. The last 6 miles, I was dehydrated, cramping, really rough shape. Pushed through, but I literally kept saying to myself, I don't stop. I had to stop and ask a guy for water, because I was just really struggling. And I remember I said it out loud, and he looked at me like I had 6 heads. And I was just like, apologize. It's just something I've been saying to myself. And I picked that up from Jesse Itzler, and it actually really, really got me through. It's so crazy that the words and the inner self-talk have just so much more power than we think they do. And when you just let these doubts and self-limiting factors creep in, that's what you do. You limit yourself. And a lot of the time you won't even let yourself attempt the challenge, because you've put such a mental block on that challenge, and you've surrounded that challenge with such doubt that it's why even start? It's not going to happen. Of course, there's certain things that are outside of the realm of possibility, but a lot of things, especially challenges and fitness challenges, it's just doing the work. It's just moving your feet. It's just lifting the weight. It's all scalable. And over time and consistency, you can hit goals that you wouldn't even believe. And that's something that I've learned through physical challenges. And that's kind of why I continue to push myself. And even that goes back to affecting people around you. You know, I was 250 pounds. I could not run a mile. And I'm going to run my second marathon in October. I just did a bodybuilding show. I'm not trying to say that and by no means am I some stud athlete or freak fitness junkie. I throw myself at crazy challenges for sure. But I would like to think that there's a couple people that have gotten a little bit of benefit just from seeing like, oh, like what is he doing? And I love that. I love that could potentially help someone or just spark that interest in someone to just push themselves a little bit. That's really what it comes down to. So really, really just comes down to just helping people in any capacity by the way you live your life and leading by example. And me personally, I always focus on being that best version of me to positively impact anyone around me to any degree. And again, it doesn't have to be someone goes and runs their first marathon because they see you run. It's just, they might go run their first mile and who knows what that turns into. Again, it's something I often say, especially being in a gym environment, you could be nervous to start a new exercise or to try a new lift. And this goes back to something I often say where it's, at one point, The Rock picked up his first weight. Usain Bolt ran his first sprint. You can't be an expert day one. No one is. Of course, people have natural ability, but you need to put in the work. So if you're going to talk yourself out of even trying and putting in the work, of course, you're never going to hit goals. But if you can just build that confidence to just try, because that's all it takes, then from there, you can do almost anything. And it's a great time to kind of bring up this book here, which is Limitless by Jim Quick. It's incredible. Jim Quick is a very bright guy. He actually had a brain injury, couldn't read well, and he completely transformed that. He's like a speed reader. He does all these different types of drills. Even in the book, he shows you how to read faster. It's one of those things. You're limitless. He was kind of pigeonholed as a poor reader. I think in the book, he actually calls himself the kid with the broken brain, and he's completely transformed that. He coaches athletes. He coaches everybody on just cognitive quickness and little skills that you could take, just make yourself mentally sharper. Two more things I want to touch on. One thing that comes along with this and building the best version of me is building something Jesse Itzler also talks about. If you don't know Jesse Itzler, CEO of multiple companies, his wife is Sarah Blakely. She actually created Spanx. Just a really, really smart guy. Something that I really enjoy about Jesse Itzler that kind of separates him from the usual entrepreneur or famous social media people and just obviously famous people in general. I think he even owns the Atlanta Hawks, is his emotional intelligence is off the charts. You could hear it in the things that he says and the way he goes about his life. He values his time a lot. The manner in which he lives his life, you could just tell that he really resembles and kind of values his emotional intelligence at the forefront of what he has going on. But something he really talks about is your life resume. And that's what I like to think, not just the physical challenges, but other things that I have going on in my life. I just switched careers not too long ago. And then obviously, the physical challenge as well. I'm doing 75 hard right now, marathon in October, did a bodybuilding show this year, done some other endurance events in the past. And it's just stuff like that. You compound these things and they create the version of you that you become proud of. Again, it just goes back to that proud, self-confident version of you can now help other people, where maybe when you were letting your own self-doubt creep in or just doubts of any type creep in or outside noise from other people or your environment, you couldn't be that catalyst for change for other people. And now you let these events or things that you've done kind of compound and create this aura that allows you to affect other people in a positive way. And something I also think about is my older sister's due in July. I'm really excited to be an uncle, and something I think about is like, one day this kid's going to be in grade school or middle school or high school, and people love to brag about their dad or one of their uncles that, he played professional baseball, and you find out, guy played like D3 baseball, which is still cool, but It's a little bit different than professional baseball. I don't know. I kind of want to do a lot of things, and not just in the physical realm of things, but just I want a lot of achievements, and I guess my personal success that also could look at, from the outside looking in, could be looked at as success as well, but just a lot of things that I could compound and build as my life resume where, I'm aiming for that, maybe I do so many things and put myself in so many different situations or through so many challenges or different just life experience things as a whole, that this kid just thinks anything is possible. Like, how cool would that be? Where I run a marathon, I do a bodybuilding show in the same year, and it triggers him to do, I want to run a mile, or I want to try X, Y, and Z because, Uncle Vin, wow, that's weird. Uncle Vin, he does different things. He doesn't just do one thing, and he kind of lives his life a little different than just the norm. He kind of throws himself at challenges. Like, I think that's cool. I think the most rewarding thing would be if this kid could just not limit himself because of things he could potentially pick up from me. Again, this isn't guaranteed to happen, but I'm going to be chirping. I'm going to be chirping in this kid's ear that he has absolutely zero limits. And I think it's cool. Even going back to, you really don't know. We have no idea what Grace could become. Listen, do I think my sister has it in her to have the next president come out of our bloodline? Probably not. Probably not. But he could. We don't know. We really don't know. And not that he has to be the president. He could be the next Elon Musk, or, but it's just, I think it's cool that, especially a kid like that you just, their minds are clay. And if you positively fill it with just encouragement and self-belief, and I don't mean in the participation trophy type of way, but I mean leading by example, and just letting him just run with that in whatever direction he wants. It doesn't even have to be in physical challenges or, success in business. It could be anything. Even if he finds a hobby that he loves, it could be anything with music or art. It could literally be anything, but it just would be cool to be a little bit of catalyst of change and show this kid that you don't have to limit yourself in anything, because you truly don't. Of course, some abilities, am I LeBron James? Absolutely not. Do I think I would dominate him in my pool in basketball? I've been saying it for years. I think I would. Honestly, a quick game to 7, he comes to my home turf, and we play pool basketball. It's a different game. We go down any court in the world, he's going to crush me. It's a different animal. I think you put me and LeBron on the water, again, topic for a different day. Been saying it for years. Again, I'm not LeBron James, so I'm not saying I'm going to go be, back-to-back MVPs and win championships in the NBA. Of course not. It's not going to happen. There are things that just we limit ourselves in, and you don't have to. And sometimes they're so simple. And the thing you have to do is just do them and just try and put yourself out there. We get so scared of our own limiting thoughts and outside views, and we're terrified of even this. I was not scared, but I've been forcing myself to do things that make me uncomfortable. I would have never started this podcast years ago. And it's just the truth. And now, you know what? I thought of it, kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I was like, So I did it. So I just did it. And that's kind of how I've been living a lot of what I've been doing, such as a career switch or throwing myself at a bodybuilding show. Again, last thing I wanted to do was step on that stage. But these things are what helped me grow. So I've understood that this is what I have to do. And again, it's not just for me. It's for the people around me that I could impact. There's a quote that kind of goes well with this whole message as far as just doing things and putting yourself out there and trying new. And it's by Henry Ford. And reads something like, if you think you can or if you think you can't, you're right. And it's true. And it's, your mind controls that. Your mind controls what you think you can do and what you think you can't do. If you let self-doubt creep in and you never start, you're not going to do it. If you could just get a little ounce of self-belief to just start, you could do almost anything. And something else that I saw was a little TikTok quote popped up today, and it was 1% of the world's population has ran a marathon. And I think that's kind of crazy. People that run, you might want to do a 5K, you might want to do a half marathon, and then the goal of a marathon comes. So anybody in the running community, generally at some point kind of thinks about or just starts to go after that goal of a marathon. So it's crazy to think that only 1% of the world's population has run a marathon. And I think that begs the question of like, what are you going to do that separates you, makes you different, makes you better, and pushes you to be the best version of yourself? That's basically what this is all about. My why is to positively impact as many people as I can by being the best version of myself and being the leader that I needed at my lowest points. And that's episode 4, folks. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you hear, I'd appreciate if you like, subscribe, and share. Please let me know. We're going to start having guests on. And that's it, folks.